I like the plurality of approaches, ideas. There's lots of critical presentations, but there's also a variety of more traditional theoretical psychology here, and I think I like that about the conference, and I also like that we have so many people from very different countries at the conference. So that's one of the really great features of ISTP. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's many interesting areas being talked about, and I think really that is very inspiring. But I also think this theme is a good theme about doing psychology under new conditions, and it was something that I addressed in my own presentation about how the rising field of health promotion and health psychology, how is that an area where I think kind of critical psychological thought, theoretical psychology needs to enter and qualify these areas and connect up with actually interesting ways of thinking and doing practice. So I think that was, for me, it was very interesting to talk about doing psychology and connecting to that.
I don't see much progress. There is very much repetition of very classic ideas in slightly different, slightly novel versions. Very much fight about something, ontology, but no big innovations. Maybe in the next 2 years in Chile.
This conference was very interesting, and I think they continue to get better and more sophisticated, and the papers become both more intellectually stimulating and more varied in the kinds of projects and topics people consider theoretical. There's some things presented here that would never have been presented at an ISTP 20 years ago, and I'm impressed by the quality of this meeting.
So I see conferences of International Society for Theoretical Psychology unique in the sense that they are forum for more open and critical discussions on psychology. And what I find also interesting and good is that people explicate their position, including political positions, which of course build the framework on which we do psychological theorizing and psychological practice. And I think this is a relevance of the conferences and of society, which go beyond the boundaries of psychology or of science and have some important social and political relevance. And I think this is what we need to have much more than it is present, especially in psychology, which socialize a kind of neutral or apolitical attitude or way of thinking. So this is what I find important.
I think it's been very interesting overall, but I've just been from one presentation by one professor who has decided to move from the academic world into the practical world, where he is touching the lives of people. And I have given an example of the things that he is selling. I bought 2 of those because he says the proceeds go back and change the lives of people. And this is what is important really, because the academic world is mostly criticized for being too academic and not necessarily impacting on the lives of people. But this one, I think, has done it. And how I wish that his paper could have actually been one of the keynote papers that were presented. Because to me, it is more meaningful if we do research that it touches the lives of people more than the talk shop that we have all the time.
What I sort of like about this conference is the number of young people who are coming online doing this kind of research, and it comes almost automatically, and they get a fairly good audience of people who can ask questions and chat with them and network with them. And 30 years ago, when the society was just starting, everyone felt somewhat marginalized, that there was no one to talk to, etc. And so I think that this conference has managed to bring together both generations, the new generation who are just getting their doctorates and learning about theoretical psychology, critical theory, etc., and those that maybe 20 years ago were the only person in a 200-mile radius that were having such thoughts. So I think that that's what this conference shows, is that there's now a legitimate area of research with journals, with programs of study in theoretical psychology, related fields of history of psychology, etc., and that you can do a dissertation and do well and go on and have a career. And I think that's very exciting, and that's what I think that's what the lasting impression I'll take away from this place is the enthusiasm of also the Greek students who have suddenly joined in that we didn't have very many before, and each time we pick up another group, there's a lot of South Africans that have been following us around, a lot of Australians because we had the meeting, some Chinese have come again because we had the meeting in Nanjing. So I think I look forward to Chile. I think that's going to be a very exciting meeting if we begin to pick up some South American members too. So
I thought it was an interesting conference, and probably what for me has been like a feature of it has been a focus on there's been quite a bit of emphasis on new technologies and how those have to be understood, and I think that's quite important. So that's been encouraging. The other side of that, though, is that there's been less of a voice from what is usually the subject of a lot of papers and critique, and that's I suppose people from what you might think of as the global south. I still think that's quite missing, and it compared to last conference in China as well, it is still quite an absence, kind of a silence around that. So those are the two things I guess I keep picking up at ISTPs, and this would be no exception.
I like the diversity of theoretical orientations and approaches that is always represented. And I think a lot of the work that's being done is quite interesting. For me, one of the big themes that I always like engaging with is the way in which I think ISTPs become a critical psychology space as well, where people engage in quite new and innovative and reflexive ways with a lot of psychological theory. And yeah, I do enjoy that. It's quite stimulating to then go back to wherever people are from, and I know I enjoy going back to South Africa and then kind of thinking about and ruminating on a lot of the kinds of papers that I've seen. So it's always been a positive experience for me.
What was the most important experience for me actually was to meet so many critical psychologists from the whole world. I didn't think that there are really so many out there, and that was really quite motivating for me actually, because I felt quite alone at Vienna, and it's just mainstream psychology and all the thing, and right here there are so many people who think about the political and social context of their work and the consequences of what they do actually. And that really motivates me, and I think many people around here to go home and do what they have done before. Yeah. And the other thing is that it is also a connection between critical psychology and philosophy and history of science, which is of course my special interest. And I really see them working together, talking to each other and trying to better their own work. So, well, altogether it was really a very good experience, and I hope to come to Chile in 2030.